I want to welcome you and thank you for attending Maranatha's business meeting. And for our guests this evening, I'm Brian Sullivan, the head of school, and invariably we have families that are interested in Maranatha and use this opportunity to come and get acquainted with our school. And I want to thank all of you for attending. I realize there are a lot of things competing for your time and your attention, and so that just makes me appreciate so much more your ability to be with us this evening. And so I'm going to show you a word, okay, in just a moment. I'm going to show you a word. And what I want you to do is I want you to think about your reaction to this word, okay? So here's the word. Let's say it. Change. Change, right? So how did you react to that word? Think about it for a minute. A lot of us are apprehensive when we see that word, right? It can be a little scary. It can be, intimidating, right? Maybe your mouth suddenly became dry. Maybe your palms began to sweat when you realize that, hey, change might require that I may not be comfortable with some things. That I might have to do something that maybe I'm not really prepared to do. That I might have to make some adjustments in my life. But the truth is, change happens, right? Change happens. And change happens whether we like it or not. And really, there are only two possible reactions to change. One is to embrace it, and the other is to resist it. And so if you embrace it, arguably you're ahead of the curve. But if you resist it, you're eventually going to find yourself in a position where you have to play catch up, or even worse. But the reality is change is happening, regardless of whether we decide to accept it now or be forced to at a later date. At Maranatha, we embrace change. We want to be ahead of the curve. We want to position your children, our students, to be ahead of their competition. We want them to not only embrace change, but to make change. After all, isn't that what Jesus has called all of us to do, to be change makers? That's a very different approach than most schools, but it's central to how we function, how we operate at Maranatha Christian Academy. And it's right here in the second half of our vision statement. And so there's our vision statement, but in the second half of that vision statement it says, preparing students to live their faith and thrive in a changing world. A changing world. Now that probably is the understatement of the night, don't you think? Because it's changing at such a rapid pace. Futurist and architect Buckminster Fuller established something called the knowledge doubling curve. He proved that human knowledge doubles every 100 years. Well, today in 2019, human knowledge is doubling every 13 months. Every 13 months. And it's at a pace to increase beyond that. In fact, IBM says with the build out of the Internet of Things, human knowledge will soon double every 12 hours. Now think about that for a moment. What historically has taken 100 years will happen every 12 hours. And so the world that your child will enter in 3 years or 5 years or even 10 years barely, if at all, exists. So I ask you, what will the future look like? And why build a school for the present? At Maranatha, we are a school with and for the future. And this is articulated in our Maranatha 2021 strategic plan, goal number 7. We say that we want to be a school of the future versus one without a future through continual innovation, transformative leadership, and vision. I'd like to tell you how that future is going to look at Maranatha. And to do that, I need to really talk a little bit about our past. So in 2008, Maranatha came to a crossroads. And I think everybody recalls what happened in 2008, the Great Recession, right? And up to that point, we were doing fine as a school. We were functioning in a very traditional way. We were a very nice Christian day school. And then the recession hit. And private schools like Maranatha started closing their doors at an unprecedented pace. In Minnesota, 54 private schools closed in the first 2 years of the recession. And they bellied up. And we did not want to be number 55. And so with God's help, We literally reinvented ourselves. We prayed Colossians 2:3, which says, in him are found all wisdom and all knowledge. And then we strategized how best to prepare your children, our students, for the future, rather than desperately hanging on to the status quo or the way we've historically done things. We established a new mission statement, which said, okay, we're going to be college preparatory and also a distinctly Christian day school. We remodeled 90,000 square feet in our building. We invested significantly in technology. We embedded an Associate of Arts degree in our high school through a partnership with University of Northwestern. We created a STEAM center. We established and built an entrepreneurship program housed in a new entrepreneurial center of excellence. Instead of cutting the arts, we invested in the arts. We built a new music center, and just this fall opened a new lower school art lab. Instead of tightening the budget, we took a calculated risk and we increased it. And you know what? It paid off. It paid off. Maranatha, and I'm proud to tell you, is doing better than it's ever done before. For example, 47 seniors last June were on that platform to receive their diploma. We celebrated the fact that 47 seniors shared $5.6 million in academic scholarships. Do the math. Do the math. Literally every parent got their tuition back from Maranatha and more so. 22 of those seniors graduated with a full Associate of Arts degree. This fall, we grew in enrollment by almost 10% when other schools are reporting soft enrollment or even declining enrollment. And as you saw, we just opened a new innovative hub, the Lower School Learning Commons. And why is this happening? Why is this happening? Because Brian Sullivan's so smart? No. No, you know better. You know me, right? It's happening in spite of me. Because we're building for the future. We're building for the future. With God's help, we conceived and we implemented programs centered around this philosophy that we're preparing students to thrive in a changing world, a future world that will be unlike anything that we know today. And as an institution, we aligned our efforts and we allocated resources to that belief. And I'm happy to report that we are succeeding, that we are thriving in the present. But what is cutting edge today will be conventional tomorrow. And sure, there are many schools that are offering orthodox business education classes or having meetings about developing an entrepreneurial center like the one we've had for 2 years. But it's also true that private schools in our marketplace are getting crowded. We're crowded with ambitious schools who are competing for that in that college preparatory space. So we're still focusing on the future, and we're asking ourselves questions like, how can we make MCA students the best prepared for that future world? How can we stand out in a crowded, competitive field which provides a lot of options of excellent private schools? And I believe God, again, has provided an answer for us. Maranatha will be a school of innovation. That's right, we're going to be an innovation school. We'll prepare students for a world where innovation is paramount. We'll equip them with the skills they need to not only thrive, but lead in that future world. Their journey from pre-kindergarten through grade 12 will be focused around the idea that students that have a world-class education, whose identity is grounded in Jesus Christ, and are comfortable with change and skilled in innovation, they will be the best citizens, the best partners, the best candidates for employment, for promotion, and yes, for leadership. They will be the head and not the tail. They'll be above and not beneath. If your kids are given a world-class education and possess that skill set, by default, they will be the leaders in their generation. Now, I'm passionately excited about this. The Maranatha of the future will be centered around 6 principles, and I'd like to take a minute and just talk about those principles, if I might. The school of the future will, first, embrace exploration. Then, lead with empathy. Thirdly, pivot with perseverance. Number 4, create win-win solutions. Number 5, grow through failure. And lastly, number 6, collaborate and connect. So, okay, let's break down these principles and talk a little bit about what does that look like at MCA. The first is embrace exploration. Again, the Lower School Learning Commons, which you just toured, is a hub that facilitates exploration. The space is designed and the teachers are equipped to foster curiosity, inquiry, creativity, research, and problem solving. Students will learn the new foreign language, code, design thinking, and CAD, utilizing tools such as 3D printers and laser cutters. The value of embracing exploration is not just about being creative and innovative so that they can be successful, or about exploring just for the sake of fun. It's embracing exploration, which is the philosophy of finding and discovering impactful solutions, which in turn will bless others. To whom much is given, much is expected, right? Genesis 12 says that we are blessed to be a blessing. The blessing should flow through us to others. It's about using that innovative skill set developed within students to solve real-world problems for kingdom growth and kingdom building. Number two, lead with empathy. Now, we don't look at this as some feel-good hallmark statement. Rather, it's a tangible, concrete action, an attitude that we want to foster within each and every one of our students. Jesus himself tells us the greatest of all must be servant of all. And since the start of this year, your students have participated in a blood drive in October, a toy drive in December, where we eclipsed the amount of toys that we collected for disadvantaged children and youth by almost 450 toys this year. We collected over 1,000 toys, making Christmas a reality for very deserving children and young adults. And then in November, your students participated in Meals for Minneapolis, and you did in many, many ways, which is a great example. This program exemplifies what it means to lead with empathy at MCA. In 6 years, now think about this, in a relatively short period of time, in 6 years, you have, our students have, our faculty and staff have raised money and assembled 133,000 meals that were given out to individuals and families in the West Metro that are dealing with food insecurity. This is a key value that we live by at MCA, and one that will be integral to the school of the future. We'll continue to expand Meals for Minneapolis programs and initiate many other programs just like that. And better yet, students will plan, will initiate, and lead these programs. They'll lead with a heart of compassion, and they'll lead with a heart of empathy. They'll lead with a very sophisticated skill set. They'll lead with real solutions for real-world problems. The next value is pivot with perseverance. Now, as I mentioned earlier, just a few moments ago, Maranatha pivoted as an institution. We not only survived the recession, but we grew during the recession. We came out of the recession growing, solvent, with a ton of momentum, because we became agile and nimble as an organization, and we capitalized on opportunities that presented themselves. And we want students to master and exhibit this core value. We want them to be comfortable with change so that they can embrace risk, recognize opportunities or solutions, pivot, and then lead with courage and perseverance in times of change. The next one is win-win solutions. Now, thinking win-win, that's a buzzword in business, right? Buzz phrase in business. But thinking and in turn creating win-win solutions, it's biblical. It's a biblical model. It's a mindset that seeks to add value to other people. It requires character, requires maturity, integrity, and really an abundance mentality. It stands in stark contrast to win-lose. Scripture appeals to us in countless ways to think and model a win-win approach to life. In Matthew 7, it says, do unto others as you have them do unto you. In Philippians 2, it says, be humble, thinking of others, not only yourselves. And later in the same book, in Philippians, it says, don't look out only for your own interests, but the interests of others. Now, we all know a few years ago, NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick took a stand, public stand, and protest the treatment of people of color by taking a knee during the national anthem. Now, let's stop here for a minute. Relax. Relax. Okay. I know this is a very divisive issue, but it illustrates this point. So bear with me, okay? Last fall, a number of our Maranatha Providence football players were conflicted about some perceived racial inequities that they had experienced in the program. And so they came to see me. Now, let me stop right there. They didn't take it upon themselves to rebel. What did they do? They came to see me. Think about that. High school boys who are kind of amped up about this issue came to talk to me about what they should do with it. And they asked me that, hey, if we take a knee during the national anthem, will you support us? And I listened to their concerns. And what I said was, well, let me challenge you. I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to think. And I want to challenge you to ask God for a win-win solution. Now, it would have been easy for me to bring the hammer down, right? It would have been very easy for me to go absolutely yes or absolutely no. You're not allowed to do that, or you're allowed to do that. But that is not how you create capable leaders. Are you with me? You don't create capable leaders that way. So, because we want students to wrestle with real life issues. If this is a dress rehearsal for life, this is the lab to work through that and to reconcile those issues. And so we want students to turn to God and ask for clarity and ask for wisdom while formulating their own convictions and solutions. And these young men did. I'm so proud of these young men. Those football players held a team meeting. They facilitated a discussion with the team. They heightened awareness and sensitivity among the team, and they brought about unity within that football team. They created a win-win solution and then stood together during the national anthem. These amazing young leaders arrived upon that course of action with some helpful guidance from me, but more or less they did it on their own. But make no mistake, we don't handle all situations this way. We're fully aware when students need distinctive rules and when they need to have that opportunity to really grow and develop. The ultimate metric and the absolute at MCA, of course, is God's Word. Then grow through failure. What, Brian, are you nuts? You want my child to fail? I mean, raise your hand if you want your kid to fail. We got one, two maybe, three. Okay. So, of course, no parent wants their child to fail, right? No one wants failure in their life. No one wants failure to be a destination in life. And we all come from school systems where failure wasn't an option, right? I mean, we were told to strive for A's and never get F's and avoid F's at all costs. And many of us have grown up and work in business that way. But the problem is life doesn't work that way, right? Failure is part of the life journey. Thomas Edison had thousands of inventions that failed before the light bulb succeeded. Artists have hundreds of failed versions of songs and novels and paintings before the masterpiece emerges. And we view it that way at MCA. The only way to create adults in the future who have resiliency and the tenacity to succeed is to allow them to fail along the way. Then help them reframe it and see that failure is never final if there's learning and there's growth. And then finally, collaborate and connect. Collaboration is a vital skill for our students, and it's prized professionally. Remember the old adage that two heads are better than one? Well, the Bible is better yet when it says there's wisdom in a multitude of counselors. More effective problem solving, learning, and creativity happens when you combine talent, experience, and perspective through collaboration. And it's one of the primary vehicles that God can use to foster emotional intelligence and cultural intelligence within students. It enhances listening, understanding, self-awareness, and personal growth. Redesigning curriculum and developing teachers in this skill and then creating new flexible learning spaces is already happening at Maranatha. We are and will continue to design learning spaces for teamwork, large and small group interaction, as well as socialization. We know that at the very core of our faith is relationship, right? Relationship with God and relationship with one another. So providing time in our schedule and space for students to connect with each other, with God, and with us as staff is important. Now, we're planning a cafeteria remodel this summer. And the cafeteria today, if you've seen our cafeteria, which most of you have, is pretty utilitarian, right? It's kind of a cross between tragic high school musical, prison, and East Germany in 1955. So when the wall came down, we bought all the Soviet-era furniture and put it in the cafeteria, right? And that's the space that your kids dine in every day, right? So, I mean, let's be honest, that's the kind of cafeteria we ate in schools, right? And how did that inspire you to collaborate? And how did that inspire you to connect with others in a meaningful way? The new cafeteria is going to be welcoming. The new cafeteria is going to be well lit. It's going to have flexible and comfortable seating. It's going to have a fireplace. It's going to supplement instruction. And it'll be a collaboration and connection space when not used for dining. And this is just one example that we're planning for with the expansion of our building of the future. Plans are already underway for this school of the future to be constructed in a way that students are encouraged to develop their thinking and these skills all day long. Now, with these principles at the center of the student's experience, they're going to position for success in anything they choose to pursue in this life, I believe. The days are long gone when school was simply a place where you got information, because information is available 24/7 in the palm of my hand. The school of the future is going to go way beyond that. The school of the future, Maranatha Christian Academy, will provide students the tools to imagine, to synthesize, to invent, to research, to connect, to collaborate, to create and plan. The school of the future will send your children, our students, into the world ready to embrace change and to be the change makers that God has called them to be. I'm excited about the journey we're on. I truly am. And I'm looking forward to your partnership on that journey. So thank you. Thank you for your passionate support of our school. Thank you for believing in our mission. And thank you for being here tonight.